Hi, and welcome back to Inspired Alchemy with Lizzie. This is episode 28. I don't even know what the title of this is going to be, but I know I kind of want to talk about nature and how we've removed ourselves from nature so far that we've forgotten a lot of things about what it means to be human. And maybe this is the alchemy of being human. I know that I was just away when I went to Boston and Salem and all of that, but I just came back from a week-long trip for a celebration of life for my uncle who passed away in January. But we wanted to wait until the weather was good. And so we waited until his actual birthday, which is July 5th, to have a celebration of life for him so that we could all sit around the fire pit and do the things that he loved to do. And it was actually very beautiful. I was nervous going into all of it because I've done a lot of work on myself, so I didn't know how I would fit in. And it was a super interesting experience, and I was much more confident in it than I expected. But when I was away, I they my family lives in like the Nashville area, so Tennessee. And so we took the road trip to get up there, and we drove through the mountains, and we saw the rock, and we saw lakes and streams and creeks and just nature in general. And I honestly, coming back, even though this wasn't pre-scheduled, which I really do want to pre-schedule them because I think it's better for you guys. So I'm really going to work on doing that. But today I really wanted to talk about the alchemy of being a human and how far we have removed ourselves from the natural world and how different things are when you're in nature. So I don't know if you've heard about forest bathing, but forest bathing is literally when you go into the forest and you just are. You connect with nature. And again, as with anything, well, any of these, I'm going to try to make this as cohesive and understandable as possible because so much happened while I was gone in terms of new awarenesses and perspectives and things like that. So, driving up there, the first mountain range that I saw, my nervous system automatically just relaxed. I am an ocean person. I love the ocean. I love being bathed in the ocean. I live in Florida, but even though I love the ocean, I don't make it to the ocean very often. I'll make it there at night, um, sometimes because it gets really, really hot, and I'm super fair, so I burn really easily. But I do love the beach. I love going during the day as well and seeing the sparkles on the water and all of that. But I'm starting to realize that as I'm getting older, I'm being called to different places. And the way that the mountains had an effect on my nervous system, I knew I was supposed to be there. I was calm. I was so calm the whole way, just watching the mountains just go by. So we drove through like northern Georgia, things like that. We did have like some stop offs and we did some fun things and took my daughter to downtown Hawkins, which was like, it's called Stranger Things. If you are aware of Stranger Things, Hawkins is the city in Stranger Things. And the downtown area was shot in a place called Jackson, Georgia. And so we took her there so that she could see the things on the way up. And then we went to Covington and Conyers. If you don't know, and this is like a little side tangent, Georgia is known as the Hollywood of the South. So many shows and movies have been shot there, including Stranger Things and The Walking Dead and The Vampire Diaries and the originals, which is one of the Vampire Diaries. I think Cannonball Run, In the Heat of the Night from like the 80s. All of those things have been shot in this area. And I love movies and music and all of that stuff. So I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this stuff. I don't know much about it. I know more about music than I did movies. But a lot of stuff was shot in that area, and there's even more starting to be shot in that area. So it was kind of cool. Even when we were there, they were recording some kind of show. I guess it's another season of a show I've never heard of. in Covington. But anyways, we stopped and did those kind of things. And we ended up stopping in Chattanooga, and we stayed at a place called the Chalet, which is part of the Chattanooga Choo Choo. And I realize this is going away from nature, but I think it all has a reason why I'm telling you this. It's the Chattanooga Choo Choo was a huge part of history. And I'm going to kind of geek out, I guess, on some of this stuff and really show you who I am. So, the Chattanooga Choo Choo was an important part of the railway system. And we actually found last minute, because we didn't have a place to stay or anything. I just felt that we needed to stay in Chattanooga. So, we stayed in Chattanooga and we found a hotel that I said is called the Chalet. And it happened to not be too busy at the time. So we were able to get a room overlooking what looks like an old train yard, which my daughter is obsessed with trains. She has been ever since she was little. Anytime we go anywhere. And I think that she calls them in. So we were able to see the train yard outside of our window. And she just stood there and stared at them. And you're able to actually walk around the entire train yard of the old train station. And the old train station was there. And we happened to end up eating at a place called Nick and Norman's, which didn't know at the time, because it was really one of the only places open because it was late, that it's owned by Norman Reedus. I think that's his name, how you say his name. And he played Daryl in The Walking Dead. And my daughter just geeked out about it. And so we ate there. And in the morning, I woke up and I was able to look out the window as the sun was coming up. The sun was rising and you can see the mountains. And it was amazing. My nervous system just felt right. Like the mountains were calling me. And we ended up leaving. And I guess this is part of travel and all of that. And then we made our way to the Ruby Falls area. And we found a place called Glen Falls. And we hiked Glen Falls. It's absolutely beautiful. We had on our GPS to go to another place, and I forgot what it's called, but it didn't take us there. It took us somewhere else, and then we're like, oh, there's another place here, so let's just stop here. So we ended up hiking the falls, and it was just absolutely beautiful to see the trees and to see the animals and hear all of the things. And it reminded me that although we live in this modern world and we can appreciate things like trains and places where you can eat breakfast and all of that stuff, we have been removed from what we are naturally. Watching my daughter, it was really funny to see her hike. And as she hiked further and further up, she looked back at me and she goes, oh no. She goes, I'm a thrill seeker. I'm like, you didn't realize that before, when you're like flying 20 to 30 feet in the air on aerial apparatuses? But it really hit her at that moment because she had nothing to hold on to. But yet she continued to hike and to continue to go. And some places got a little bit narrow and there was like a sheer drop off. And there was like a boulder, and it was funny because she's like, you think I could climb this? Yeah, sure. Right. And there was a little path that led up to it, but there were also holes in that rock where you could just grab on. And she is amazing. She just held on and like grabbed in the little holes and just pulled herself up to the top of this boulder. And seeing her interacting with nature, she's always been a kid that loved nature, but she even had some realizations when we were in nature, because it's very different from where we live. Because we're very flat and we have the Everglades and all that kind of stuff. But seeing her just intuitively grasp onto these things and to feel that sense of belonging with the rocks and the trees and her path. She wasn't afraid of what was coming. She's also very aware, so she knows things because she saw a snake and she came back and she's like, there's a snake over there. We didn't see it when we went back where she was at, but it was like curled up in bushes. So it's not like she's going forward and she doesn't realize. She has a very good, keen sense of like tracking and things like that. So to watch her just take off and to feel and to stop and just feel everything around you is so alive, but not in a way that a city is alive. It's alive in a way that we are alive as human beings. Was just beautiful. And she had no fear. And we walked up to the first part of the falls. There were a lot of rocks and boulders and stuff in the way, but we walked up to the first part of the falls, and to see it is absolutely beautiful. It was a little tiny piece of the fall, but you can put your feet in there, and it just, running water to me always feels alive. It feels cleansing. And at first she was afraid to like stick her feet in there, but I took my shoes off and I'm like, hey, let's do this, because there were other people doing it, things like that. And so it was fun. And we just sat there and admired what was around us. And we felt connected to what was around us. Just humans interacting really in their natural habitat. So we stayed there for a little while, and then they wanted to climb further up, so we did. And the further we climbed, there's more falls. So, at one point, there's a huge boulder that was at this little pool that you had to climb down to if you're brave enough. And so she had like this desire to get to this rock. And she stood on top of it and she looked down and she was like freaked out. She's like, oh my God, this is so scary, because it's pretty much like 100-foot drop down. And she got a little brave and she's like, I want to slide down this rock down into the little pool area. I'm like, no, this is where I have to say no, because if you do, you're going to fall off the other side. There's a possible risk of that, and you're going to fall 100 feet. And we're not going to do that. So she was like, fine. So we kept climbing up. And as you're climbing up this mountain, there are other streams and things that feed the falls. We couldn't go up too far because we weren't expecting to hike like that. So we weren't prepared. If you're going to hike, make sure you're prepared. So at one point I was like, okay, it's time. It's like time for us to go, which I'm glad we did, because as soon as we started to go back, she goes, I'm thirsty. I'm like, yes, this is why I told you we need to go back. So just looking around at the trees, listening to the water, listening to the birds, seeing the animals, it really reminded me and the power of the mountain. I know that a lot of people don't think about this, but there is energy absolutely everywhere, and you can tap into it. The mountains will speak to you, the trees will speak to you, the water will speak to you. And I know that sounds really hippie, but it's true. We are energetic beings. We are scientifically proven. It's not a woo-woo thing. We are energetic beings. We are electrical. And being in an element where your nervous system is naturally supposed to be is something different. I saw a change in my daughter. Again, I saw that she just wanted to keep going. She wanted to be a part of this world, and she was. She let herself fully be immersed in where we were. And it was beautiful to see, and I could feel it in myself. And then I did something that would be considered woo-woo on the way back down. Different trees will call to me. Some trees feel a little grumpy and they're like, don't mess with me. I don't want to be touched. Just stay away from me. Don't even lean against me. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's just like people. But there are some trees that will be like, hey, like, come and talk to me. So, yes, I hug trees. I'm not going to lie. But I was like, hey, I have an idea and I kind of want to try it because I can't remember the conversation we were having, but we were talking about the energy within nature and how cool it was. And I was like, I have been doing a lot of energy work. Let me see if I can connect to a tree. And so I did. And I put my hands out and I asked the tree, hey, can we have a conversation? And the energy of it told me yes. And I could literally feel the energy between my hands and between the tree. I wasn't touching the tree, but I could feel the tree and the energy that was coming up from the mountain and the water that was flowing around us because everything is connected. And it was super cool. And then I was like, hey, I wonder if this other tree feels any different. And it did. It's like different people have different energy. And while the tree was very similar to the tree that I had just worked with, this tree was a little bit different because it was in a different spot and it had different things around it, but it still had things to show me and tell me. And I could feel the history of that space. And I can't describe it because it's a feeling. And I thought that it was really cool. And then I will take you to my family's property where there's streams running through it, and there is, after it rained, you can smell the dirt, you can smell the trees, you can smell the water, you can smell everything, and your senses are more heightened and you feel more connected. But the water was flowing, it was really cool. In the creek there's like crawfish, people call them crawdads, and it's pretty amazing to see this because I wasn't expecting to see crawdads in the stream. But my daughter spent so much time just connecting to everything around her and just feeling in her element. And I allowed her. She's like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk. Okay, just stay on the property. There's 5 acres. You know what I mean? So she spent a lot of time outside, a lot. And the last day that we were there was really cool because my dad took her on like a side by side, it looks like a golf cart, but you can like take it down creeks and across hills and all those kind of things. And then she brought me back these flowers and I'm like, man, these smell really good. I'm like, what are they? And so I look it up and it's wild bergamot. And I'm like, Dad, you have to take me back there. So I'm like going through this field and you can smell the bergamot and you can smell the other things that are blooming back there. I'm pretty sure there was like wild carrot and there was all kinds of other things like black-eyed Susans, and I think there was horsetail and just things that I was geeking out about because I love wildflowers, I love flowers, I love herbs, I love all of that stuff. So just the smell of it, it has a different effect within the body and in the nervous system. And you just close your eyes and you can feel it and you can smell it. And I can feel it and smell it now. And it's like, I can feel the energy start to flow within me because my body is remembering where I was. And on the way home, I was like, what is my episode for Friday going to be about? And I guess it's just that, my trip, the connection to modern society versus natural habitat of where we are, who we are. If you are feeling disconnected, I can promise you that if you allow yourself to be in nature, you will feel more connected to yourself and more connected to what it means to be human. And while we can appreciate things like trains and modern society, creature comforts, things like that, it really is different being in nature, running into the forest, and just being. There's a sense of this is right. And I'm not saying I'm going to go take off and go live in a hut in the woods, which I don't judge anybody if that's what you decide to do. But there is a magic to being human and being in an environment where we are meant to be. We're not meant to be in boxes. We're not meant to be encased in concrete. We're meant to be barefoot, running around, hugging trees, feeling the water from the streams on our bodies, eating the things and smelling the things and using the things from nature that they provide for us. So remember that. Our modern way of being is not really our way of being. It's something that we have created and we have adapted to. Your nervous system needs nature. And I think that's all I have for you today. I know this was all over the place. I know that I said what I needed to say in terms of what needed to come to the surface. Go forest bathe. Go run in the creeks. Go smell wild bergamot. Don't eat wild mushrooms unless you know what they are, because they will kill you. That goes for anything. Don't just go pick up things and eat them just because. That's how we find out whether things are poisonous or not. Just be. Find time to connect to yourself. Find time to connect to the natural world, because it does make a huge difference. And as always, you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You are just becoming everything you are meant to be, and unbecoming everything that you are not meant to be. Go touch grass. Go smell the earth. Go hug a tree. And know that better things are coming. Things might feel heavy right now, but better things are coming. Sending love to anybody who needs it right now. And if you want community, come join us in the Inspired Alchemy Collective on Facebook. Or come find me on Instagram at Inspired Alchemy LLC. And if you need to chat, let me know. Have a great Friday, everybody. And that's it. Until next time, keep creating alchemy.